This is This Week in Perspective with me, Adam Simbe. You can see I'm very happy, I'm very smiling because of the panelists I have here. Recently, the heads of state and government of the East African community met in Dar es Salaam at its 18th Ordinary Summit after 3 postponements under the chairmanship of President Joseph Magufuli, who handed over the chairmanship to President Museveni of Uganda. However, there was a number of absentees that were noted. Not a number, but actually the 3 major ones, and that was Professor Dr. Paul Kagame of Rwanda, Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, and Nkurunziza of Burundi, but they were all represented by senior officials. A number of issues were discussed at this summit, but perhaps one of more significance to me, I don't know about my panelists, was the Economic Partnership Agreement, again, a bit of resistance with the European Union, and the admission to the club of South Sudan. The summit was well represented, but as I said, the 3 were not absent. The issue of the new issue of political confederation instead of political federation. Well, these are very interesting things. To analyze the summit and its outcome with me today are Professor Prosper Ngowi, Mzumbe University Business School, a regular participant on this program. Next is Professor Mwesiga Baregu, a political scientist from St. Augustine University, and again, a regular participant on this program. Okay. Next is Professor Samuel Wangwe, a pioneer of this program. For quite some time, he was not able to attend. We understand. So we're happy to have you today. But from Tanzania Daima, from Daima Associates. Daima Associates, but formerly Chief Executive of Tanzania of Economic and Social Research Foundation, actually the founder of that, and then he went on to REPOA. Yeah. I don't have to mention your big position, the other thing. We'll leave it there. Welcome again.
Thank you.
And last but not least, again, regular participants, and the one who rescues me from complaints of gender imbalance. That's Mari Shaba, a broadcaster. Welcome to the program.
Ramadan Kareem.
Alhamdulillah. Ramadan Kareem. It's nice to see you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the program. Let's do justice to this program. So, let me start with maybe Professor Baregu. Yes. Was the 18th Ordinary Summit of the heads of state governments in Dar es Salaam recently successful? And how do you measure success in this situation? I mean, there have been similar summits. The last one, it was in Kigali. A number of issues were discussed there. And then this one recently. Was it successful in your view? And I hope all of you, the 3, you attempted to respond to this. Okay, Professor, very quickly.
Well, let me begin maybe with the motto of the East African community, which is one people, one destiny. And it looks to me that any success and any measurement of success somehow has to reckon with these basic aims which are in the motto of EAC, one people, one destiny. Now, at this summit, did we demonstrate that aspiration of being one people with one destiny? I think we didn't, by and large. One, the attendance of the summit, in my view, must say something about the extent to which we are one people with the same destiny, because only 2 heads of state were at that summit. And I believe because President Magufuli was passing the baton on to President Museveni, the 2 had to be there. And that means, in my view, maybe they had to be there precisely because they could not be there if they were handing over to each other. The rest of the others did not come. Well, they sent either the foreign ministers or they sent other representatives. So, in a way, for me, it looks like a snub, either a snub of President Magufuli, precisely because this was the first time he was chair, and he was passing on the baton, and one would expect that the colleagues would be there to congratulate him for his chairmanship for that year. So I felt that was not a very good thing very good.
But there were explanations why Nkurunziza. Why
There were
Uhuru
explanations, but
did not turn up.
as analysts, we also read. You read body language. You read. You know. So we are saying. I'm saying. This is what I read
All right.
into it.
Okay.
But the second thing was the issue of one destiny, and to me, this is really the most worrying part of some of what went on this summit. For the first time, and Professor Wange would agree with me, we thought we were all in a fast-tracking federation. We are fast-tracking our political federation with, guided by that one destiny of one people. A lot of work has been done about political federation. And for the first time, there was this thing about a transitional confederation. For me, I was taken aback a little bit because I was involved at one point, along with Amos Wako and Juma Mapachu and the former Secretary for Political Affairs, Kiraso.
Oh, the lady.
Yeah, the lady Kiraso, yes. And we were drafting a draft constitution for the East African Political Federation. So the fact that someone is now talking about the confederation, and our draft is there somewhere, this means somebody must have shelved it somewhere, and it's gathering dust somewhere, and nobody wants their work gathering dust, I'm quite sure. But the confederation idea means that now we are retreating. The feeling is that we cannot accomplish a political federation. One, because there has to be some kind of transition towards that. But two, that probably there is no political will, there is no commitment towards that goal. That, to me, raises the very fundamental question about one destiny, which means all this time we thought we had a destiny of political federation.
Suddenly that's a pipe.
All of a sudden that's no longer our destiny. And a confederation need not necessarily lead to a federation. So if you say we are having a confederation as a transition, beware that you might be stuck in that transition for a very long time.
Okay. Professor Wangwe,
Yes.
you share that comment?
I think it's a good point, especially considering that the fast tracking report, the Wako report, where Professor Barry was part of it, indicated that there was a transition and there were things to be done to get there.
Yes.
So what is not clear now is why do you want another in between the transition? Why do you want this thing called confederation? Because it's very clear, step 1, 2, 3, 4 must be done in order to achieve the federation.
Yes.
So if the confederation is on the same route, it does not serve any purpose. I think the issues which were clearly stated as preconditions for achieving the federation should be the ones to be now. They should be reviewing how far have we got in terms of the transitional landmarks which we agreed on.
Yeah.
So leaving that and coming with something new without explaining, I agree that it also takes me aback. What's going on?
Okay. But before I come to you, Professor, let me go back to Professor Barry.
Yes.
What is political confederation? Maybe the viewers would like to
Yes.
I mean, very quickly.
And how does it differ from
Yes.
a federation?
Yes.
A confederation, I don't think that anybody can ever give you a definition which is completely precise, but it means political federations and political things are about power, about who is exercising final control and making final decisions in any arrangement. And a political federation is probably an improvement on the East African community like we have now, but probably not very different. The confederation means you come closer, but sovereignty, really, for sovereign decisions, remain in the hands of each member of that political grouping. In a federation, you surrender most of your sovereign authority to a common pool, and you pool your sovereignties, and then you have one authority which exercises power, or most of the power, the larger part of power, on behalf of the rest of the members. So that's why I said we are retreating from where we wanted more concentrated power.
Okay.
Now we want
Again,
a loose relationship.
Again, I come back to you, Professor Baregu. When we discuss the 54 years of the AU, and in the course of our discussion in this program, you were there, Professor,
Yes, I
and
was.
the other panelists were talking about the goal to achieve a continental single government.
Yes.
And there were doubts during the discussion
Yes,
that
yes.
maybe we will never get there now that Gaddafi is not there, who was championing this thing, because of the fundamental issues of surrendering sovereignty.
Yes.
So you think this is just about it?
Well, this is just about it, because part of the argument about not coming to unity immediately, the same way that Nkrumah had suggested,
Yes.
was that we'll gradually build from these regional blocks.
Yes.
The AC, ECOWAS,
SADC.
SADC, that if these are strong, and then finally we'll come closer together. But what the message now being sent is that even here it's getting looser. So if you can't tighten this one, which you said this was a building block, then we are not really building any walls at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
A big pardon again.
It's okay. It's okay.
We'll come to you. I want to go back to Professor Wangwe, because you are chairman of a committee, either commission or committee established by President Kikwete to go around soliciting or collecting views of the Tanzanians whether they are for fast-tracking a federation, or do they, in the first place, do they think they would rather have a federation of East African countries? And then, of course, if you do you want it fast-tracked? Now, very quickly, tell us, so that whole process or concept or agenda is dead. It's as good as dead, isn't it?
Actually, you rightly say, we made consultations, essentially seeking views of the people of Tanzania on what they thought about fast-tracking the federation. Tanzanians essentially said they would like to support the idea of integration, and they don't oppose the idea of federation, but they are concerned about the three issues which are transitional issues. Not to say no to the fast-tracking federation, but to say these three must be
accomplished before that?
Yes. First is the question of land, which many were fearing about the dangers of land being grabbed.
Yes.
So they were saying, let's put in place arrangements to have the land titled, properly formalized, before we can allow the federation.
Yes.
But the second concern was about employment.
Okay.
That we are not quite well prepared to compete in the East African labor market. So let's give ourselves time to prepare ourselves to compete in the East African community labor market. But the third concern was governance issues. Saying here we have a system where we have now, according to them, we have got it right in terms of term limits, politically, in terms of governance, in terms of addressing issues of tribalism and so on. But our colleagues in other neighboring countries, we are not sure whether they are there yet. Let's give them time to
maybe to come to the level we are.
The level we are, then we can
to change governments on the ballot paper.
Yes. Although others were debating, saying, no, let them come, we can change them. Others say, no, if they come, they'll change us.
Thank you, Professor. Now, sorry, Professor Ngoi.
It's okay.
I wonder whether you would like to react to the same question about the 19th ordinary session, whether it was successful or not. And when asking Professor Baregu Ngwe to respond to that question, I see they immediately went to the new concept of confederation, and at least he said he was not happy. He doesn't think it was successful. Now, you want to react to that.
Yeah, to a number of issues really. On whether it was successful or not, of course, it depends on what they wanted to achieve to start with.
Yes.
Of course, they wanted to hand over the chairmanship. They succeeded, so you tick that one. That was correct. Because, of course, there was no way President Magufuli could have kind of went on with the power. He had to hand it over to President Museveni. That's okay. But again, I think with a bigger issue within this, I think what was much awaited was the question of EPA, whether they would sign the economic partnership agreement with the EU or not.
Yes.
And I think, as you have seen, they did not sign. So if that was the intention of the meeting, that we meet and then we are going to postpone, well, that's okay, maybe it was succeeded. But then the reason that was given, of course we have a lot of reasons, but now this time around came new reason. President Museveni said, the question of Burundi was now used as part of the reason as to why EPAs cannot be signed this time around. Because I think, to use Museveni's word, he said, you cannot come into my house, punish one of my kids without informing me, those kind of stuff. So I think it came as if EPA cannot be signed if EU is mingling in the East African affairs.
Trade
yes,
or whatever.
yeah, but I find this really, in terms of if it was a way of saying no to EPA, this really is not a very strong reason, because I think the fundamentals of saying no to EPA have been there always. The imbalance, that the supply side of East African community is not in good shape to be able to compete with EU imports. There's a question of a duty-free, quota-free import. That's okay, because now if you bring in the question of Burundi. I'm just saying, if EU said, okay, now we are no longer putting all these restrictions to Burundi, so come and sign EPA.
Really?
I think they won't, so you can see there is a yes or no here.
Yes.
But again, as the professor has said, in such a grand event of handing over chairmanship,
yes,
you would expect really at least more than 40%, because those who came is less than 50%,
Yes.
So in this context, again, really, I won't call it really a success. They would have expected much more participation. But again, as you're saying, if the journey towards now the political federation, that I think was thought to be the next stage,
yes,
as again, it's again steps back, and when this is steps back again, because I think every summit aims at moving ahead.
Yes.
Now this is something that takes us back. And now I think professors now maybe will have a job to explain to Tanzanians, to East Africans, what political confederation means. Yes. And maybe professor will have to collect new views on whether really we wanted to go into that and what it implies.
Confederation,
yes. Yeah. So I think it complicates issues.
Your work seems to be well cut there.
Well, in my... Okay.
No, just finish.
In my view, confederation is, the giving up of sovereignty was a process. And the fast tracking towards a political federation was clear about how this process will take place.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which means confederation is on the way. I don't understand why it becomes a milestone. Because it's a process of giving up sovereignty gradually, until we get to the political
It's a final destination now.
Yeah,
it's not a milestone.
So why make a landmark on the way?
Halfway through your train journey to Mwanza, you are nearly getting to Mwanza, Shinyanga, and all those Bukene and the rest. Then you stop. We said, I think we should go back and go by road through Arusha.
No, maybe not quite. You say you're going to Mwanza.
Yes.
You've got to Morogoro.
Yes.
You say, now, let's say your destination is Dodoma first.
Okay.
But why? Dodoma is on the way to Mwanza.
That's a good one. That's a good. Did you finish?
Yes, I get it. But I mean, will this also has implication on the economics part of it? Because
yes.
Because again, when you're working towards single currency and all this, I think the idea is thinking of East Africa as kind of as a federation. And so I think it will derail all these other issues, monetary issues, and
certainly
all kind of stuff.
Forget monetary union.
Because it will be disturbed, really. It is a journey derailed.
All right, but maybe successful. after delaying, you can lift the buggy.
You wanted,
and then
in words of Professor Wango, you wanted to go to Mwanza.
Yes.
You are in Dodoma.
Yes.
How
no,
were
you're
you
in
successful?
Morogoro. In Morogoro.
Yeah, now,
And you say
but
no.
now you're saying you are going to Dodoma.
Yeah, you,
not to Mwanza.
You're
the
not
new
successful.
destination is Dodoma because you're not sure you will get to Mwanza.
Mary, from a Pan-Africanist and a broadcast point of view, please come in. We have had these summits. The recent one, in memory, is the one in Kigali, which came up with a number of things, including a Pan-African travel document, passport. And yet in Bunge, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs reaffirmed that no, as far as Tanzania is concerned, anybody who wants to come to Tanzania from the East African country, passport is what we are looking for, not these IDs. All right?
Yeah, no borders. Break all borders.
Yes.
I've been listening to my brothers here, and concerning the question whether it was a success or not,
Yes.
I look it as a people, not as anybody else. Because we as the people, we feel it's a leaders' club. They come, they talk, they go. we remain
Where
with
you
our
were.
business as
Where you
usual.
were, yes.
Okay? And this was reflected even this time. And my personal views, there's a Kiswahili saying, somebody can translate it. We have become like nazi kwenye pakacha.
Coconuts in a bucket.
When you go to the market, kila mtu ana bei yake.
Everybody has the price for them.
So the East African community, for me, is like that. You get a coconut here, bring them in a basket,
the basket.
take them to the market, and then everybody has their own price. I didn't feel there was that, like the professor was saying, common destiny. Because by now, we should be somewhere else. But it seems there is no commitment, therefore, and there's a lot of fear. We fear each other. That's what I feel.
But the fear has been on for a long time.
We don't trust each
Incidental
other.
reviewers. Mary Shaba was also part of the committee, Professor Wango's committee. Yes. The fears have always been there. That's why the East African Committee broke in 1977.
Yeah.
Again, fear. But you
Now,
see-
when are we going to end that fear? If there's commitment, there won't be any fear because you know exactly where you're going. There will be hurdles, there will be this and this, but you know this is the route we are going with. And you have the people's power behind you. Because we as people are already federated anyway. Look at the lawyers, the teachers, the youth, the women, entrepreneurs. We are actually federated. So we are just waiting for the political will,
Yeah. Maybe,
which will guide us.
maybe I wanted to go back to the exercise by the Wangwe, which of course was carried out by all the other countries, members countries. What came out of that for me was that the people, the general population, are well ahead of the political leaders because the people mostly supported federation and most of them opted for fast tracking, with the exception, a very peculiar exception of Tanzania where we had the highest support of federation and then the lowest support for fast tracking, which I have yet to explain, but since the chairman of that, it's a very strange statistically that you get that you have the highest support, somebody really likes the girl, but he wants to really slow down the process of getting married to her.
Maybe the question of slowly but sure, Professor. Yes, it's a good thing. Let's go for it. But slowly but sure,
In that
in
case-
a
in that case-
well-coordinated manner.
Are you,
No
trying-
wonder then.
are you suggesting Tanzanians
I-
are wiser than the rest of the
No,
people in the region?
Tanzania,
I don't
I
know.
think Tanzania is. It was a wise decision to say we are committed. Yes, we are going to be married, but I must buy a suit. I must make sure the ring is there. This is there.
I
that
must
is there.
have a house first.
Then you'll never get married.
We'll do that together. That's the whole point of marriage.
You are doing it because it's participation.
Yes, yes.
So even in the federation, we don't know how it will be.
No.
But we know our leaders, when there's a war, where did they learn about wars?
About wars.
But they participate, they organize, They move, they win. So for me, I say they have no commitment, period.
Since the issue of political confederation seems to be, coming up and every time through the discussion with the four panelists, I read somewhere it's being suggested that East Africa community or East African countries should abandon the federation dream and concentrate on the common market first. And this kind of idea or suggestion comes from one member state, which is always ahead of everybody in terms of business. So they think the common market is probably more. Professor Wangui, you share that view? They should abandon this and
I think
concentrate.
essentially the early architect of the EAC and the stages, I think that was the idea, that we cannot jump to the final destination. So let's deal with the customs union first, we get it right, then the common market.
Yes.
We move gradually to the federation to be easier. Those who were thinking of fast tracking, and this idea came from Museveni and group, they're saying it's becoming so difficult to move through the customs union and the common market, essentially because of self-interest in these national levels. Let's go straight to the federation, so there are no obstacles dealing with how to
do
give up
business, go on
sovereignty.
market, yes,
we
yes.
go straight and then work backwards. Now, this is what most Tanzanians are saying. No, let's go through the common market, get it right first, then it will be easier. But the common market, that's where those two factors were of concern, land and employment. But
They
employment,
also said something very, which didn't get the
The attention.
yeah,
For publicity.
because even though we are East Africans, we have our own peculiarities. So each country has to look into that before you come in for like total federation.
Yes.
Because social disorganization is one of the worst crimes, I think. Supposing we had taken that option, that we start with the federation
Yes.
and then other things, it would be social disorganization for sure, because we differ. But this process has helped us to know one another better.
Yes.
Like I said, like people, we are already federated. Right now, it won't be a big surprise for a Kenyan to come to Tanzania or to go to Rwanda. But there are others who need to clean their houses first
Yes.
before they come.
Yes.
And this is what Tanzanians said. And they mentioned Burundi. At that time, it was really bad. Sudan, it was really bad. And they also remembered Rwanda. So these are the fears of the people for beginning with federation and then
So
coming down.
Tanzanians are risk averse.
Yes, Professor Beregu,
They take risks.
We don't
Professor
want to
Beregu,
learn how to fight.
Yes.
as a political scientist,
Yes, sir.
I don't know, maybe some of these issues do come across when you're teaching, you're taking classes with your students. The original East African countries which were more or less together for a long time under the East African Common Services Organization, central bank, common currency and all that, we came together. Then we started expanding. And there were fears here, as Mary says, in this country. The more we expand and we bring people with whom we didn't have the original, the traditional link, like the East African Common Services days, it might create problems. They might come in with their own problems, which we did not experience, and this might create. Now, do you think the bringing in of Rwanda, Burundi, now South Sudan, and here Somalia is also coming in, will this make really the East African community, before we even get a confederation or a federation, workable? How about the people?
I think we have to reach a point and really be honest with ourselves. This debate has been going on for the last 60 years or so, ever since the Cairo and Addis Ababa conferences, whether or not I mean, the debate between Nyerere and Kwame Nkrumah was precisely about that. I mean, with Nyerere arguing at that time that gradual, integration, etc., would work because nobody was prepared to risk their newly earned sovereignty. But Nkrumah argued that that is precisely the nature, the problem that's going to stand in our way. If we wait to enjoy our sovereignties of smaller countries, we will become less and less willing to surrender
give it up,
that illusion of sovereignty. And that is visiting us again now in the decisions that have to be made. I think the analogy that Maria made vis-a-vis war, I think if you may help me to remember, when Mwalimu declared war on Idi Amin in Uganda, he said about three things. Tuna sababu za kutosha,
with strong reasons,
tuna
nia
tunayo, uwezo tunao. If we could, as East Africans, declare that, make that kind of declaration, because what it speaks to is that this is necessary.
And it is possible.
It is an existential threat that we face, and therefore we must take really serious steps to address the situation. Looks to me that rather than looking at this as a necessity, the thinking behind this East African community, even the African Union, is that people have a choice. It's not so much necessity. It's the thing that they can voluntarily do if and when they feel they love each other. It's not because we love each other. It's because we need each other. And as soon as we realize that, it's need that really should push us, then we realize that we don't have to love each other. We love each other later.
But the big question here, the big question here, even to take into account Professor Wangwe's committee and the findings and the report, the people of the countries involved really behind what is happening with the EAC leading to the integration process or the common market, the customs union, the monetary union, and then finally the federation, and cracks have started appearing. So, maybe not. I mean, the Tanzanians at least were frank. They said, yes, we want the federation, but we can't fast track it. But the Kenyans and Ugandans, to the best of my understanding, they wanted to fast track, particularly Ugandans, because I read somewhere Museveni said he wants to become the first president of the East African Federation before he died.
I think that the ordinary citizen, Mwananchi, across our countries, they are not really captives of their particular countries. I think they are more captives of being Africans. Look at these borders. These borders are porous. You pretend to have borders, immigration stations, etc. The people in our countries, actually, I think, are waiting to remove these bonds.
All right, okay.
And in that context,
I'm going to ask you a specific question. Maybe you can respond as well.
Sure.
Professor Ngoyi, because of stalling signing of the economic partnership agreement, when two countries have already done that, do you think this what's the question? Do you think trade between, or intertrade between the three countries, not necessarily with Europe, but with Europe, is in trouble because we have not fully signed the EPA agreement? And to follow up to that, why is Tanzania still adamant to sign?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with the last one, because the whole issue that surrounds EPA is this worry that the East African community is not ready, specifically a country like Tanzania, because part of the worrying issues include issues that revolve around what we call duty-free, quota-free imports, for example. Because once you make it, for example, quota-free, it means really we expect now goods in that context from EU market to be dumped into the East African market. Now, this, for example, for Tanzania immediately puts a danger on its industrialization dream, because if you are to go in terms of development, if you want to really to develop your industrial sector, And then you open what I call the floodgates of the industrial goods in a way. Really, the capability of Tanzanian supply side to cope with the imports now from EU is threatened. And I think that's why partly Tanzania is saying no to that. But also, if EPA are fully taken, now quota free. And a quota free, it means you import from EU without duty, without imposing a tariff, without kind of getting revenue out of that.
But we can, it says we can export everything and anything except arms.
You can, but then you look at your export capacity. That's why we go back to what we call, the supply side constraint of this country. Where do you have a good supply side, a good business environment that can really produce those goods that can compete and be accepted to the European market? Remember, it's not only Tanzania or East Africa, for that matter, that is supplying the European Union. We have Asia, we have South America, we have also the Europe itself. Yes. But also in this broader context, of course, the issue of industrialization again, which is our dream, it's a problem. So under this context, I think it makes it. I see the point really of our leaders really hesitating. There are a number of chapters within the EPA thing. There is what we call the development chapter that you'll be helped in this and that. But really, it looks as if East African will be a playground for experiment. Now, what we are, I think, and correctly so, we are becoming Mountain Thomases. We wanted to see it where it has worked first. So that we are not being experimented on. I think that is the
very quickly. How long will this go on? Do you envisage one day the European Union will say, to hell with you, we've been negotiating this for a long time, but you're still stalling, forget about it. What will replace it?
Actually, I think the African community is one that can say exactly that. It is I think in the way it is, I see the East African community in this matter being the one which is saying, to hell with EPA. In that context.
Okay. We go to do you want to react to that, Professor? Because I was going to ask you another question, but you can link with it.
I think from the communique, what the heads of states agreed.
Yes.
I was very impressed by the beginnings of mentioning industrialization as the regional context.
Yes.
They mentioned the importance of building a leather industry, textile industry, which is based on the raw materials we have. So I think that's a very good start, and it fits quite well with the industrialization strategy, which the region has actually prepared and agreed on it. So that's step number one. Step number two will be now to agree on how to industrialize. What policy do you want to have vis-a-vis trade, vis-a-vis outsiders?
Yes.
As a clear policy.
So, did the heads of state take into account, sorry to cut you short, the differences in terms of progress, industrial progress among the countries? There's one which is far ahead than the others.
That communique is very short, and it has a lot of things behind. So we are not privy to the details. But
what are the implications also in that statement? There is a worry about declining intra-EAC trade.
Yes.
Can you integrate that in your intervention?
Okay. So what I'll say is then, if you want to industrialize, what policy do you want to have on trade and on international relations, economic cooperation with other countries? Then on that basis, we can decide, yes, this is how we want to relate to Europe, this is how we want to relate to China, this is how we want to relate to the US. I don't like this idea of one group say we want to relate with you this way, and then we haggle thinking whether we should do this and that. Like our colleague who is wanting to sign is attracted by the penetration of horticultural products into EU. Yes. But these are raw materials. Yes. And horticultural products, so long as you meet the gap requirements, you penetrate the market.
And mostly they are produced by multinational companies anyway.
So the capacity to produce, I agree with you.
Time is running very fast.
Produce is what we should be worrying about. So how to deal with outsiders, we should have a policy of how to deal with them. So rather than being driven by their proposals, we should be clear about how we want to deal with it.
Did you want to
just one sentence, which, because we work with people, and this is what most of them say. In the 1970s, a farmer could get a lot from cotton. Today, that farmer is still getting poorer and poorer, but the cloth industry, the price are getting higher and higher.
And which depend
What
on
is
cotton.
this?
Yes.
Now, those are details, I think, but this question is very fundamental. They wonder, why is it coffee, a coffee farmer is getting less for now, while the coffee price for a cup of coffee, you get a lot of money.
It's rising.
They are just wondering, and that's up to the economists and
I
leaders.
think it has to do with, because this farmer, as Professor said, is selling raw material. It's not value added. While if you drink that coffee in London, when you go to London, it is processed, it is value added, and all kind of stuff. It's exactly similar to Tanzanite. India seems to be trading more Tanzanite than Tanzania, but because Tanzania is exporting raw Tanzanite, not what we call a beneficiation. So once it has gone through value addition, processing, and all this, it fetches really high price. But so I agree with Mary that indeed, at the core, at the kernel of the matter is we are not adding value to our products.
Why not? Up
But
to
we
now.
had
Why not?
There are a lot
now?
of issues. Now it depends or not. If you come to the mineral concentrates,
Yes.
which is a big issue now, it will be, do we have the capacity? Do we have we made all this? But this, I think, is something else.
But
Yeah.
even before we go that, let's consider, in Bukoba, I remember we had Africafe. We were making instant coffee. In Mwanza, there was such a thing, if anybody remembers, there was Muatex, and the textile industry, there was Mutex in Musoma. There was,
There's
all
Imbeatex.
this capacity has just collapsed.
Standards.
So,
What are the
Partly,
standards?
I think
Your
partly-
standards are low.
No, partly.
Hygienical,
Yeah.
child labor, I don't know, plenty of things.
But even if they were, we would be at least be consuming domestically and regionally. But
least-
even that, we are
We're
not.
not.
I think partly again because we have opened up a lot and the trade
we
liberalization
had
and all
our own
this.
clothing on our backs instead
Yeah.
of mitumba.
Yeah.
For me, mitumba is the biggest disgrace that we can ever get involved in, I think. My mother used to say, if you don't have, she's now late, if you don't have enough money, son, just save enough. Don't ever bring me a mitumba.
That's a good one.
That's what my
That's a good one. Now, we should be winding up in the next couple of weeks, minutes. Now, the Secretariat in Arusha presented a budget to the East African Legislative Assembly in the tune of 247 billion shillings. And it says this money or this budget proposal is for accelerating the implementation of East African Community integration. You buy that idea?
Yeah, well,
And I understand they are in a financial crisis. So they come over there.
If you look at I've not gone so too much into detail, but I understand it. The lion's share it remains at the Secretariat, and I think it really for what I would call recurrent expenditure for day-to-day running of the office.
Yes.
And I don't really think. I think it will be really for running the office, so to say, because I understand the financial year that is ending. They didn't really get what they had wanted. So maybe it will cover up for the gaps first, and then the little that is remaining to cover the general issues. So I don't really see this budget becoming a game changer as such.
All right. Well,
In my
yes,
opinion,
Prof.
a budget cannot accelerate.
But they say this is the
But
thing with the
political
budget.
will
Yes.
can create a budget which is consistent with accelerated integration. You don't put a
It's
budget
not about
first.
money. Yeah.
And political
Political
will.
will.
in
If it's there, the budget will be there.
And political will is a function of a clear realization of what your interests are. And in the setting of the EAC, what is our collective interest? I remember the Kampala Agreement, where we had we began to go to some kind of division of labor. Kenya should produce this, it's most efficient, Tanzania should produce that, etc. We should systematically, through this industrialization strategy, the new one, hopefully we can begin to talk about Tanzania and Rwanda within the context of an East African industrialization strategy.
You recall
That's what they expect.
the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland?
Yes.
Because that was exactly what they did. They said, Malawi, you produce food. Zambia, you produce copper. And Zimbabwe, basically food and the industries.
And then
But
the economies of
until-
large-scale production.
Yes. Okay. The last very question we should finish. I'll start this way. and go this way, okay? You be the last, Professor. Now, all what we have said notwithstanding, it's exciting about this political confederation, which I think we'll need to explain it further, because I don't see how these people, because it will have an impact on the original treaty, I hope, and they must have taken it into account. So what are the specific challenges that stand on the way to progress of the East African agreed protocols, for example, common market, customs union, monetary union, and political federation? And what is the future of the East African community and its full integration processes? Professor, very quickly.
Thank you. Very quickly, I would like to see 2 tracks of action. One is to consolidate the common market.
Okay.
Make sure we are prepared in terms of labor, in terms of handling land and other factors to be ready to play significantly in the common market. But 2, on the political front, there are already milestones made in terms of what institutional arrangements must be made towards the federation.
Yes.
We should continue those institutional arrangements towards the federation, including arrangements of how to handle conflicts like the Burundi one. The fact that we are not quite handling it is a weakness of these institutional arrangements, which are specified in the treaty. That's where we should consolidate.
Okay. Mari, very quick.
Yeah, there is one thing which was mentioned, and we were very happy, that is in 2011, heads of state in the Great Lakes, they had a meeting in Kampala where they had declared to unite in the struggle to prevent and end impunity and provide assistance to victims and survivors of sexual, gender-based violence in the region.
Obviously.
This was 2011.
Yes.
To date, nothing much has been done. And in all the communities, is of no significance. And yet we want to have a common destiny. How can we, when more than half, women and youth especially, are being sexually violated against? It's a big war thing today. And even in a country like ours where we have no war, but there's a lot of violence. And it's growing in the region. It will prevent us from even getting what we are talking here or what they're planning. So for me, it looks like it's fashionable to talk about this, but there's no follow-up, there's nothing.
Thank you. Professor.
Yeah, I think to use Mama's words, for the people, I think the key issue is economy. That people really want to benefit economically from the integration, whether it's from free movement, trade, cheap exchange rates, those kind of stuff. So the political part of it, I think it's mainly leaders' issue. I don't think that normal men and women on the streets, Mbozi and elsewhere, I don't think they are much so worried about becoming the president and ministers of East Africa. Really for them is the issue of survival, is food on table. Yeah, how much this makes my life easier. How much this integration gives me more food on table, more trade, more money, those kind of things. I think that is really the core. And the moment we are not really addressing this, then it will not really, the ownership, people's ownership of the integration process, it will be dangerous. Because I think what we want, yes, deeper integration, but then should be people-centered. And I see this missing.
And don't forget peace and social justice.
Thank you.
Professor?
Yes, I don't think I'm too far from everybody else. I just want to say that among the resolutions made at this last summit was that all the outstanding protocols should be ratified by the end of November this year. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I think that just to stress the point about the involvement of people in this whole process, as I said before, I think when it comes to the desire to unite, I think the people are ahead of all these other East Africans. All they need now is to get more involved. They should elect their own representatives directly into the East African Assembly. They should get closer to this process, because I think, to me, they are the most dynamic drivers of this process if it's going to go.
All right. Well, that's very interesting with your summaries, and I'm sure they have reinforced the discussions here, and you have more or less given the way forward. People involvement and the basic in terms of what people want food. They don't care whether there's a federation or not. The decisions which are made in these East African community, various organs, 2011 gender balance and whatever, but nothing seems to be happening. And Professor here that the systems must be well entrenched and introduced to ensure that this is implemented and are followed. It's more or less the same with the heads of state of the AU. They pass resolutions and all this, but then who follows them up? And if the ordinary people see that these people come together and they make decisions and then they don't see the results of it, they don't benefit directly, they say to hell with it. I mean, let them meet and do what we don't bother. So thank you very much for this, and I'm sure my viewers out there will have benefited a great deal on the contribution, and I think it was very powerful and dynamic. Viewers, as you have heard from my panelists here, despite misgivings in many quarters within the East African region, as I said, regarding pertinent issues, for example, the European Union and the East African Community Economic Partnership Agreement and Tanzania, the continued stand not to sign, that's Tanzania. There are issues of political union. You heard from my panelists here the question of moving away from federation dream to political confederation. I'm sure as we go along we'll be informed, made aware, educated what it means here, the political confederation. I know the United States, in some states, they are pulling confederated symbols because they don't want to forget about confederation. Now, okay, I asked my panelists to see whether it was a successful or not. Well, you had the views, for example, Professor Baregu saying, in a number of things, yes, he thought it was successful. He said it was successful, more or less unsuccessful. He said, well, the fact that they changed over the button from Magufuli to Museveni, that in itself was a success. Well, I mean, in general, the 8th ordinary session of the heads of state in the East African Community was a success, although 3 important key members, the president of Burundi, Kenya, and Uganda did not, and Rwanda did not attend. And for Professor Baregu, that tells you something, whether you like it or not. There's this togetherness, and he cited the principles of the community and all that. So let's hope one day these issues will be taken into board, and the powers that be, when they meet together, they will implement the about 12, 20 or something points in their communique, which I think they will have to follow up through the Council of Ministers. But this question of political confederation, my God, it's something very serious. And whether we should now abandon the federation dream and concentrate on the common market, customs union, as Professor Wangwe says, let us wait and see. That's all we have for you, viewers. Until next Sunday at 9, that's 21 hours, and on Thursday at 15 hours for the repeat program. On behalf of my very able, powerful panelists, Professor Prosper Ngowi, Professor Mesiga Baregu, Professor Samuel Wangwe, broadcaster Mary Shaba, and my TBC Television Center crew. Thank you, viewers, and goodbye.